You're 60 years old, you're working, and you've got $500,000 in your 401k. The question comes, should you convert to a Roth? That's what we're going to cover on today's episode. Hello, my name is John Vandergriff. I'm one of the owners and wealth planning team lead here at Blue Ridge Wealth Planners, where we help people create plans to transition into retirement or live effectively in their retirement years. And as you look at this, tax planning is a very important part of that discussion. And so that's where we're going to land today, looking at this particular situation. A 60-year-old who's working, have saved $500,000 in 401ks, and asking the question, should we start the migration from 401k money to IRA money? So we're going to look at that. And again, as we have discussions with people in retirement, we call this process a plan for everything. As you'll see, taxes are one piece of the 5 areas that we discuss, with income planning, investments, healthcare, family legacy, and taxes. And the interesting thing is, you don't really want to focus on just one area. All these things are going to interlock and overlap with each other. So as you'll see, we'll focus primarily on income and taxes today and the way that they relate, but all these things are going to impact the recommendations that we have in these different areas. So important to point that out. And also, before we get into kind of the meat of our discussion, I always like to make the recommendation, do not take the information that we are going to talk about today and use this as the sole basis for your own personal tax planning. I always recommend talking to either a tax preparer or a tax planner so that you can make sure that you're not forgetting something. We're not covering every bit of the tax code. We also don't have your specific details or income information. So that's something that we do work hand in hand with our clients, tax preparers, to make sure that we're not missing anything. So this particular situation is a married couple, 60 and 61 years old. They have a combined income of $75,000 today while they're working. And as you see here, working another 7 years until the last of them can get to their full retirement age. For Social Security, they have $500,000 in 401ks. And then when they do get to full retirement age, their combined Social Security will be almost $4,800 or $4,000 a month. And they need about $72,000 a year for retirement to work for them. So again, important to know those details, because what we've got to look at is, where is income now, where will income be later, and make determinations based on what will be in their best interest. So as we look at this, and again, when it comes to Roth conversions, the things that we have to know is, now that this couple is over the age of 59 and a half, Roth conversions are a little different for them than they would have been if they converted prior to 59 and a half, because if they make that conversion now, get those monies inside of a Roth, they still have to wait 5 years before they can touch the growth on this money. But during that 5 years, they could access the principal that they just paid tax on, now that they're over that age 59 and a half threshold, without having an early withdrawal penalty. So very important there to point out. But as we look at this situation and zoom in a little bit, we see here obviously $75,000 of wages. That is important to note, because that will be the starting place for any conversions, because the way that your income is taxed is going to be on, or your distributions will be taxes on top of every other income source that you have. So with this married couple at 75, their top tax rate today is at 12%. And so with them having $50,000 in after tax, $500,000 in pre-tax, what we're going to be looking at is primarily, if they want to do conversions, taking a tax withholding from those dollars, sending that to the government, and almost taking care of the taxes inside of the 401k assets themselves. So as we look at this, one of the most important things that we have to highlight is, obviously, where are the tax brackets today? Where could those tax brackets go? And in full transparency, we do not know where the taxes will be in the future. No one does, especially as you progress through a 30-year-long retirement picture. But because of where we're at today in our country, with overspending that's happening in Washington, as well as a large amount of debt that we're carrying as a country, taxes are going to have to go up to fix both of those things that are going wrong today. And so that's going to have a direct impact on these 401k dollars that have yet to have a penny of taxes paid. And so we'll look at an example in a second, but for this couple, $75,000 of income would put them firmly in the 12% tax bracket. If the taxes that are in place now expire after the year 2025, it is set to revert back to the way things were in 2017, and that would put this couple, instead of at the 12, into the 15% tax bracket. And then if we look at a time where taxes were significantly higher than what we've experienced in the last several decades, 1981, with these brackets adjusted for inflation to be, today's numbers, this is showing if that couple had that $75,000 of income, their top tax dollar would be at 28%, which is double where that top tax dollar is, and by a little, and with a little change as well. So, when we look at this, anytime we're having this discussion about Roth conversions, we have to look and say, is it a good idea to do this now? Or does it make sense to wait? So again, this is an example that we will normally share. So let's say you've got, for round numbers, $100,000 inside of a 401k. The example that we're looking at here is if we do nothing, leave it in a 401k, or we take those assets and convert it. And rarely do we convert all of the assets at once. We try to figure out how much to do over time so that we can have the most efficient use of these dollars. So, but in this example, we're going to be looking at just holistically the difference between 401k and if we converted those to a Roth. So if you got $100,000 that stays in the 401k, no money goes to the tax man yet because you've not taken distributions out. So you keep a balance of $100,000. If you move that to a Roth account, either 401k or IRA, you trigger a tax event of $100,000 on top of, in this case, $75,000 of income. And if that triggered a 20% tax bill for you, and you use these assets to pay for this instead of the savings you have in a bank account somewhere, you now have $80,000 to use for your Roth in the future. And so, as you look at this, this money's tax-free moving forward. This money is yet to have taxes paid, so this is not the same situation, although some advisors will use this as a justification for not doing Roth conversions. Because they'll say $100,000 is going to grow faster than $80,000, which is true today, but that's not all we have to look at because this money has yet to pay any taxes on it. This has paid all the taxes on it. So we've got to go down to the bottom and see really which situation is the best deal. So again, I'm assuming that we're investing both of these monies the same way to where they both double over time. So that takes care of return differences, time value of money, inflation. So we've got just an even picture here where we can focus on which situation is best for you from a tax perspective. So if both of these are invested in double, the Roth is worth $160,000. The IRA is worth $200,000. And so what we know is since we paid the taxes on the front end on this Roth, there are no taxes owed. As long as this account has been open for 5 years, everything's available to come out tax-free. The 401k, it depends. It depends on the tax rate at the time that you start taking distributions. Well, if that tax rate is the same at the end as it was at the beginning, what you will notice is the bottom line is the same on both sides, 160 and 160. So again, if the taxes did not change, it does not matter which of these you use. But if the taxes do change, it will end up giving you a much different picture. Now, the way that we have been taught or trained to believe taxes and how they work is from the standpoint of if those taxes or if our income in retirement goes down, those taxes will decrease. And if we have a lower tax later, that means that we'll have a better situation if we use the 401k, and that is 100% true. So if your taxes did go down in the future, you do not want to do the job of a Roth today, even though the money's growing tax-free, because you would, at the end of the day, have more money in the 401k than you do in the Roth. But because of the large debt that we have, the large amount of overspending, I think it's almost a certainty that taxes will go up for the equivalent dollar. And again, the bigger those dollars are, the more those taxes will go up. And so, as we see here from a math perspective, if those dollars do increase, or the tax rates do increase to 30%, that decreases the amount of dollars that stay with you. So what we're looking at here is what we believe is an opportunity If we have the lowest tax brackets that you'll ever see again, now is the time to start doing these Roth conversions. Then what we've got to dial in is how much makes sense for you at any one particular time. And so in this situation, because this couple is at $75,000 of income, they're going to be at $72,000 of income in retirement. Their starting distribution today would be at 12%. If we compare that to where that would be in 2017, same income, that would be 15%. And then in 1981's dollars or brackets, that would be 28%. I think reality is probably somewhere between these two. So as we look at this, we have an opportunity today to at least get some dollars paid at the lowest rates. Then we just ask the question of how much do we want to convert based on any particular situation. So what we're looking at here is this particular family, to get to the top of the 12% tax bracket, would have the ability to convert almost $34,500 at the 12% tax rate. And then if they didn't want to stop there, they wanted to go into the 22%, that would give them another $94,000 that they could convert and be in a position where they've taken care of, a little over a quarter of the 401k balance that they have today, moved into a Roth position and paid an effective rate on those distributions of 19.3% as far as the effective tax rate. So again, as we look at this, obviously what we're looking at is moving target. This is not necessarily the recommendation for everybody to max out that one tax bracket, but in this particular situation, it could make sense. So obviously for you, as you evaluate things, there are going to be a lot of moving parts here. Talking to somebody who does tax planning is going to be very beneficial for you. If you've not found someone that has helped you in this way, or at least broken this down like we have, we would be happy to share that information with you and see if now is a good time. So if you will, click the link below to schedule a time where we can talk and see if this makes sense for you in the realm of retirement planning, and specifically trying to get the best tax use of these dollars that you put away, because it's not what you make, it's how much of it you keep with you and effectively allow you to do the things you want in retirement. So hopefully you enjoyed our discussion today. As we said before, subscribe to our channel here if you like this content, share it with other people so that we can get the message out and hopefully take advantage of legally the opportunity that we have to hopefully pay lower taxes today versus where those tax rates could be later. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing more information with you in the future, but that's all we have for now.